All right, let's get started. All right, so welcome to Multi. A little bit about us. Multi, I don't know if you guessed this, but Multi stands for Multi-Diverse Unified Leaders in the Tech Industry. And we are a club on campus all about promoting diversity in tech and providing a space on campus where people feel comfortable doing anything. We do a lot of like workshopping, networking opportunities, fun social nights, and then you can always come and meet new people, like when I first joined Multi, I came because it was a place to meet people that had similar experiences from diverse backgrounds. So we meet every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Next up.
Person of the week. Okay, so every week we like to highlight one individual that's made really cool strides in technology. The first one is, I picked this one out, Jessica Matthews. She's a dual citizen of both Nigeria and America, and she founded Socket, which makes a really cool soccer ball that can be used as a power generator. She also she founded that idea when she was actually in a class, which was really cool. And then she built off of that and she founded more motion-based off-grid renewable energy, and it uses Socket's energy storing methods to build items like floor panels and speed bumps, also use that energy towards something good. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of our presentation today is going to focus on the transition to virtual classes. And I'm sure a lot of you have had some amount of virtual experience so far, but we wanted to acknowledge that there are a lot of different situations that you might be in, whether you're international, domestic, online, on campus, in some hybrid situation on campus, or many other situations that are possible right now. And to try to work together to figure out how to deal with the online classes and all of the resources that you're going to use and access this upcoming fall. And it will be a little bit freshman oriented, but upperclassmen are welcome to stick around as well, because there might be some things that you can gain from hearing what we have to say. Okay, so there are two main types of online lectures that you'll experience. And again, you probably experienced both, but just in case, we have both live online lectures and uploaded lectures that are videos. And there's a big difference between the two, and there are also some commonalities between them. In both, it's very easy to get distracted, so I highly recommend that you figure out ways to keep yourself engaged, which we're going to talk about a little later. But specifically for live online lectures, make sure that you pay attention and take notes, and don't just get up and walk around your dorm or wherever you're living, because it's very easy to, compared to sitting in an actual classroom, to lose focus, and you should try your best to stay engaged. For uploaded video lectures, it's easy to similarly get disengaged, so we recommend that you set aside time each day to watch lectures and to take them seriously. And don't lie to yourself. Don't say, I'll rewatch it later, I don't need to take notes or anything like that, because trust me, you won't. From my experience, I thought that I could just, watch it on 1.5 speed and zoom through things and not really pay that much attention, and it eventually bites you, so try to avoid doing that.
Is there any other way to watch videos other than in 1.5 speed?
Well, you could watch it slower, but that doesn't really benefit you that much. I mean, it might actually, because it gives you more time to take notes. Okay, so on homework and studying, and I know this part of the presentation is boring, guys. I promise it'll get a little better. You really, really should use an online planner or a calendar or something, because it's hard to keep everything straight, especially if you are not surrounded by people that are studying the same thing that you are, working towards the same deadlines. It's easy to get caught up and forget what day it is and what you should be working on. So you should definitely keep some sort of online planner, and you should give yourself time before submission deadlines in case your Wi-Fi cuts out or something else that's problematic. Professors are pretty forgiving, but sometimes the submission things aren't as forgiving, so try to give yourself time and check Piazza often. And if you don't know what Piazza is yet, we're going to talk about that a little more later.
Okay, so if you don't know what Piazza is basically a question and answer platform where students can ask questions about anything related to the course anonymously. And this is used pretty frequently in CS courses. And asking questions on Piazza is usually a lot better than emailing the teaching staff directly because you get a quicker response on, let me just share my screen because I have Piazza open. Give me 1 second. Can anyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right. What was I saying? Asking questions on Piazza is usually a lot better than emailing like teaching staff directly because you get a quicker response and everyone can benefit from the response you get and vice versa. If someone else asks a question, you can benefit from their response. And if you can see over here, I have pinned posts and professors will use Piazza a lot to post announcements and other important changes. So it's important to check it often so you don't miss out on anything. Some other tips before I get into how to actually post a question. When you are asking a question, you should make it a good habit to search to see if your question's already been asked because you don't want to repeat a question. And then generally reading through the questions is super helpful because you can get some tips if you're stuck on an assignment, which is, you know, what I do a lot. If you see up here, they're categorized by homework 1, homework 2. So you can just, you know, scroll through and see specific homeworks. Right now I'm in my Fundies 2 class. It's inactive though. But if I want to go to my other classes, I can click up here and see like here I have my OD and some of my other old classes. So in order to post an actual question, you can click the new post button up here. And you can select if you want it to go entirely to the class or just the instructor. And setting it just to the instructor is super helpful because if you have like a snippet of code that you don't want other students seeing or like somewhere where it's just specifically to your code, you can send it just to the instructor. So I'm just gonna do a fake question and not actually post it. So here I clicked homework 3, when lost screen. And oh, here are some other questions related to when lost screen. You should read through those too because you don't want to repeat the question. So down here, you can select if you want it to be posted anonymously or posted by myself. And then you can just click post. I won't do that because this is inactive. But yeah, I really recommend using Piazza. It's super helpful.
Okay, now I'm going to talk more about office hours and especially like different tricks that you can use, especially since office hours are going to be online now. So that's going to make things a little bit more different than in-person office hours. So first of all, if you guys haven't been to office hours before or don't know what it is, it's just a certain time slot that either the professor or the TAs or tutors for your class set aside, so you can go and ask questions about homework, exams, course material, stuff like that. And most of the TAs and tutors for CS classes, especially for the intro classes like Fundies or Discrete, they're all undergrad students who have either recently taken the class or have or took it a couple of years ago and have been TAing since. So they definitely know the class super well and might be able to give you a different teaching style than the professor. So I definitely recommend going to office hours. So the first tip is to check Piazza to see if your question was already answered, like Baden said. And also if your question is on either like the shorter side or it's something that the whole class can benefit from, you can post it on Piazza. If, as Baden said, if it's something that reveals your code or you could like violate plagiarism or something like that, then make sure to make it private so only the instructors can see it. Okay, next slide. So if Piazza didn't work for you and you want to go to office hours, the first tip is to make sure to prepare everything that you want to ask beforehand. So for example, if you can, try to prepare your questions and be able to explain your code. So sometimes you might be stuck and you don't know where to start with an assignment, so you don't really know, like you don't really have any code or you don't have any specific questions, and that's totally fine. You just have to be honest with and transparent with your TAs and say, hey, I have no idea what's going on, and that's perfectly okay, and they'll be able to help you and maybe give you some more resources. The second tip is to try to go to office hours with your homework partner. We'll be talking more about what partners are in the following slides, but essentially for classes like fundies, you'll be assigned a partner to work on assignments with. So it's super important that you actually work with them rather than split up the work, because then you might miss out on learning something and they might miss out too. So if you can, try to coordinate with your partner on when to go to office hours if you guys have questions. And last tip, I highly, highly emphasize this, is don't wait until the day the assignment is due to go to office hours, because there's probably going to be a lot of people that day and the TA might not be able to get to you, or they might not be able to dedicate a lot of time for you. So I definitely recommend trying to go as early as possible to office hours. And now we're just gonna, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to either type them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask a question.
There was one question that was asked in the chat. We could answer it. We answered it a little bit, or mostly in the chat, but it's what should we do if available office hours clash with our other classes?
A good question. So in that case, I would definitely email your professor or email your TA. Sorry, I haven't read the chat, so I don't know if someone said this already, but
yeah, well, it's fine.
yeah, just try to like set up a time with them. Like I'm sure they would be more than willing to accommodate to you.
Professors, in my experience, are like really, really want you to succeed. So if you put in the effort and if you put in that initiative where it really just shows them that you care, where it's like, oh, I checked my schedule, I really tried to make this work, but can you make another time outside of these office hours work? And most of the time they'll say yes, or they'll set you up with a TA.
Yeah, there's like a lot of TAs and tutors, especially for fundies 1 and 2. So you'll be able to find someone to help you.
Any more questions?
All right, so partners. So after the first couple assignments, everyone is assigned a partner. It's all random at first. Later in the next semester, you will actually get to choose your partners. But I recommend switching to remote, that you use something to sort of brainstorm and figure out what your code is going to look like and make sure both people can see it. So tools like Microsoft Whiteboard and Figma are great uses. You can sort of like diagram your code and then make sure that everyone's on the same page. So when you're actually writing your code together and doing paired programming, Visual Studio Code Live Share is a great asset. It's effectively like Google Docs, but for your code. Also, just make sure you figure out a schedule that works for both you and your partner. Yeah, because you don't want your to have a situation where your partner is doing all the work or vice versa. If that's the case, make sure you contact your TA or your professor and get some mediator to remedy that situation, and just definitely advocate for yourself. For me, I ended up doing most of the work, and I had to tell the TAs like, this isn't going to work. And I actually kept on losing partners because I was in the accelerate section. People kept dropping out because it was moving at a too fast pace. But eventually I got actually into a 3-person group, which was a great experience, just having more people to work on and figure out like the code together. So now I'm going to do a demo with Visual Studio Code Live Share. So let me share my screen. So I'm going to quickly open Dr. Racket with Spotlight. So Dr. Racket is a program that everyone uses for Fundies 1. It's just a great intro to programming language. So here I have a document. I'll just quickly paste in all this code just as a quick example. So I'm just going to save this file quickly to my desktop. Yeah, so this can be a demo file. Great. So now I want to open this folder in Visual Studio Code. It's important that I use the folder rather than the file, because that way you share a workspace, and whatever files get added to the folder are added to the workspace that you and your partner collaborate in. So I just dragged it to Visual Studio Code, this icon here, and I have the file right here. It also, let me just make this a little bigger. So it suggests to add an extension so I can see like the formatting and get all the colors in the syntax, highlighting that I was getting in Dr. Racket in Visual Studio Code. So I'm gonna quickly go to the marketplace and get this extension Racket right here. Cool. So now that it's installed, it has the highlighting that I want, just to be useful for when you're writing code, just to be able to see what is in like a branch. If you click on some parentheses, or you can see where it closes. All right, so then you also want to make sure that you have the extension Live Share installed. So quickly search that up in the extensions part of Visual Studio Code. As you see, I already have it installed. It's by Microsoft. It's pretty, it's used by a lot of people that are working on projects remotely, just so people can collaborate. All right, so this is the icon for Live Share. If I click on that and I share a session with read and write access, that way that my partner, which is going to be myself in this case, can actually make changes on the code from another device. So I'm going to quickly do that. So it gave me a link to my clipboard, so I can quickly go into Slack and just send it to myself, and I'll pick up on my desktop computer. So if I'm joining right now on my desktop. So a quick thing to note, the difference between Dr. Racket and Visual Studio Code, the way we're using it right now. In Dr. Racket, you can actually run your code, whereas right now in Visual Studio Code, we're just using it as a text editor. So we can collaborate on this text document. And the difference between this and Google Docs is that your file in Google Docs is stored in the cloud, whereas this is still stored on your laptop. So any changes that are happening on another person's device are being sent and synced back to your device, but it's only happening on that specific file on your computer. A good thing to note is that if you're using something like Live Share, I strongly recommend using version control. So in a future event, we're going to cover Git and GitHub. But if you're using something like this, make sure to have some sort of backup of the code you're working on. So right now you can see my cursor here on the other device. I could just quickly write a check expect right here. I'll see if the stack factorial works properly. So let's say I do 0. Hopefully that outputs 1. So at least I hope I still remember brackets and tasks. Right. So I'm gonna I'm gonna save that. And also, good thing to note is to quit Dr. Racket, unlike what I did. Make sure you have Dr. Racket closed when you're working on this. So I'm gonna close this out, open it up in Dr. Racket again, and just see if it runs. The test passed. Awesome. So that was quickly showing how you can have multiple cursors, like different people working on the same document, the same file, whatever type of code it is, with Visual Studio Code. All right.
Campus life. So considering the circumstances, it's slightly more difficult to meet people in person, but there's so many virtual ways that you can hang out with people. One major thing I'd recommend is forming study groups. That will be a great help, especially in these early CS courses like Discrete, where working problems out with other students helps a lot. There's also this app called Slack that lots of clubs and companies tend to use to communicate. And most, if not all, Northeastern CS clubs are active on Slack. So the clubs can share information about their club meetings, or any members can just ask questions about professors or classes, or get in touch with any of the other members. And joining one of these clubs' Slack workspaces can be a great way to meet people, or find other people to study with, or find people in your classes. And Slack groups have different subsections called channels, which are basically like different conversation threads, each with a different topic. So in our multi-club Slack, we have one channel called opportunities, where we just share lots of CS opportunities that we see. We have another called food, where we just share pictures of anything we've made. Another where we can just ask questions about classes and professors and stuff, and lots more. And also on the topic of clubs, I highly recommend joining clubs, or attend as many club info sessions as you can, and just choose one that you'll stick with or attend, because you'll meet other people who also want to be there. And it's a great way to try new things and meet up with students that you might have not met, considering, well, the pandemic and distancing regulations. And also, if you're on campus and your RA has events planned for your floor and you might think they're boring and not want to go, I would recommend going at least for a little bit and leaving later, because you never know what you could find, people you could meet. And overall, there are so many creative ways to get involved. One idea is just mail a letter to a friend, someone. I'm sure that a friend back home would be very pleasantly surprised if they found a letter in their mailbox from you that's just catching up or something. You can set up time to call friends and family. Multi has also planned several game nights, which are kind of really fun. Two of them that we recommend are Spyfall and Codenames. Everyone can just play remotely, and you can hop on a Zoom call so you can see each other's reactions. You might have also heard of the Chrome extension called Netflix Party, where one person can share their screen basically, but there's no lag or anything, and the same person can pause it for everyone. And even if you don't have Netflix, I know Amazon Prime also has the same thing on their website called Prime Watch Party. But if you don't have any streaming service and you just want to share like YouTube or something else, there's another website called Cast, where even if one person has Netflix and the other person doesn't, you can still share it among everyone. And also feel free to talk to any of the eBoard members or any of the multi-club members. We know that this is a tough time for like the traditional college experience, or a tough time to meet other people. And we're all here if you want to chat or hang out or something.
I'm muted, which I do all the time. Okay.
So can everyone see my screen? Hold on. Yep. Okay. Just trying to fix the thing. All right. Don't look at my emails. But what I did is I opened up an incognito tab. So basically when you get the link to join the Slack space and Baden just sent it out, you're gonna get this screen. You just put your email in. If you want to follow along, feel free. You can join your first Slack space or your first Slack workspace, which is our community Slack. So continue with email, and then you have to confirm your email when you get it. I don't know if this is going to open. Is this my? Nope. Hold on. There we go. So I'm going to put in my nickname. Please don't send me emails on Slack. Okay. Click continue. And then this lovely thing, the Greetbot gives you like basically a summary of anything that you would need to know about our community Slack. You can read through it, but basically it gives you, these are all the channels we use. This one was brought up earlier, and this one's a fun channel. It's all about food, cute pets in this one. There's, if you want to join, actually, I don't think there's any on here that you, but if you, I think most of the time you just start off with like the normal ones, and if you want to add one, you can click browse channels and look through the ones that you're not in. So let's say I want to join pets. You can go ahead and be like, I want to be in pets. Now I'm in pets, and I can add my pet. I don't have any right now. Random is just sometimes memes, sometimes resources, sometimes fun brand themes. Studies, basically, if you have any questions about what classes to take or anything about the class you're taking, or want advice from upperclassmen, from like your peers. Am I missing? Introductions is a good place to just let everyone know things about you, like have people reach out. You get to learn more about the people on the Slack. Also, this is fun. Gigi just started question of the week on our community Slack. So we ask a new question every week, and you can read through the fun answers. And that's basically it about Slack. It's a great way to connect with people in clubs. I know a lot of companies use it, so it's people, like especially at companies, people are very surprised when you have the ability to use Slack. So it's definitely a plus. It's a great way to connect with friends.
Okay, so now we're just going to talk about a few tips for doing work from home and online learning. So one of the most important things is creating a quiet work environment. So it's really important to separate where you eat, sleep, study, and just hang out. Even if it's just different areas within your room, having like designated space for all of those activities will help you to focus and get into the right mindset when you're trying to do those. So for example, last semester when we first switched to having online classes, I didn't have a desk set up in my room yet, so I just did all my work from my bed. But sometimes that would end up with me falling asleep during class or taking naps when I wasn't really supposed to. So this semester, I've got my desk all set up, and I'm gonna try and be a lot more careful about separating everything out and making sure I have a focused space for each different activity that I'm doing. Another thing that can come up is Wi-Fi troubles. It happens to almost everyone at some point. and professors do know this. So if this happens to you, let your professors know as soon as you're able to if your Wi-Fi comes back up, or you can let a TA know as well, and make sure to text a friend in the class afterwards so you can find out what you missed, get their notes and everything. And then also background noise in Zoom. So again, this happens to most people at some point, and Zoom does automatically cancel out background noise to some extent. But if you tend to work in a louder environment or you have specific types of noises that you want to block out, Zoom can actually handle that. So you can go into audio, advanced, and auto processing in your Zoom settings and kind of play around with those to figure out what works best for you. And then finally, for those who are international students or who are working from really different time zones, you can communicate that with your professors. Let them know if you're having trouble attending class or going to office hours, make sure to tell them that, and most of them will be very, very willing to accommodate to you and help you figure out a time where you can meet with them. At the end of the day, the professors are there to help you succeed. That's their goal. And they will be willing to work with you to help you figure out a setup that will work the best for you. So I know that a lot of you probably had to finish out high school online. So if anyone has any tips about working from home or working online, we'd love to hear them from you. Feel free to drop them in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves and say them now, we'd love to hear you.
I don't know if this like works for everyone, but I remember someone suggesting someone in one of my classes last semester was telling the class that she dedicates different rooms in her house to different classes. So she'll do all of like her calc watching and homeworking in like her room, and then another one in the living room and stuff. So that's a suggestion if that works for anyone.
All right, so tools for the semester. All right, so when you use Zoom, make sure to use your Northeastern address. So that actually gives you the full access to it. So you have unlimited length meetings. So if you can use that to like just connect with your friends. Also, OneNote and GoodNotes are great note-taking apps. So OneNote is free. It comes with Office 365. GoodNotes is great if you have an iPad and you're used to writing with a stylus. Both work great with a stylus, although OneNote is more geared towards actually typing and writing your notes down that way. The hidden server, make sure to, when you're using hidden server, just to submit like before, make sure you have submissions like way before like the deadline. Usually for most classes, you can submit as many number of times. So it's great to have something just so in case your Wi-Fi goes out, you have something there on the server. Overleaf is great for like LaTeX. All these tools, you don't need to use all of them for each class, but Overleaf is great for discrete when you're going to be writing LaTeX. It's great if you have an iPhone, just use the Notes app to scan documents. Adobe Scan is great if you have Android. Also, of course, Office 365, as I said, is available to everyone. It's great to actually have access to everyone's contact information in Outlook. It's a great tip. You can just like type someone's name and it pops right up. And as we'll go over next week, as I mentioned previously, Git and GitHub, it's a great version control, just having backups and copies and then be able to collaborate on code together, which is a really great tool.
Can someone explain latex? I've never like really used it before. Or Gigi has it, okay.
So LaTeX is a typesetting language. So I don't have Overleaf right now. But it's really simple to be able to write your LaTeX it's like code, and then have the preview there on Overleaf, right there, so you can see like the PDF that you would output. Yeah, it's great for like math, if you're writing formulas and stuff.
Okay. Okay, so speaking of Git and GitHub, in 2 weeks on September 23rd, mark your calendars right now, you have no excuses. You're definitely, Git and GitHub are really good skills to have in CS. So on September 23rd, C4C will be joining Multi and putting on a Git and GitHub workshop. So make sure to be there. All right. Thank you everybody for coming. Fill out the registration. While you do this, we can go through and answer any questions in the chat. Also feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, not registration, feedback form. We'd love to hear any feedback you have from us on how this went, on if you had fun and if you learned. I can go through the chat now to see if anyone has any questions.
Also, sorry if this presentation was very boring. We promise that it's usually much more interesting. We just wanted to make sure that we gave you guys the information that you would need for your first week or two.
Is every week going to be recorded? Yes. And it's going to be uploaded, and we'll send you guys out the link.
I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about Git and GitHub and what's its used for?
So Git and GitHub is basically a way, kind of like Vincent showed a little earlier, like LiveShare, except it's not like LiveShare, it's more of version control where you, 2 people are working on one, one project. And this person's making changes and this person's making changes. It's a way to combine those changes without having any clashes. Yeah, basically. What's the difference between Overleaf and LaTeX? Overleaf is used to, like, it's a LaTeX editor, but LaTeX, you'd have to write LaTeX code to format it. I find Overleaf to be easier.
There's also, I think, a desktop app that's called LaTeX, where you also write in the formatting language. Overleaf is just a cloud-based version that live updates next to the formatting language you're using, and it shows you the human readable document that you're basically creating.
I know this wasn't planned at all, but if you want, I can open up Overleaf and just show everyone kind of what it looks like quickly.
Sure, give me a second.
That would be awesome, Chloe.
Yeah. Okay.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Wait, sorry, I just need to share my screen. You guys can continue with the questions while I
Yes.
open this up.
I'm trying to look at more questions. To bring this up from earlier, one of the tools that Vincent mentioned, like scanning through your notes app, was very helpful, especially for my CS classes, because some of them I needed to for my exams, or I would need to write down my answers, and then I needed some way to upload them. So scanning from the app was definitely very useful.
And in iOS 14, you can access that in files as well. So that's a good tip.
typing or writing notes. I like writing them out, but that's because I feel like I remember it better.
I thought it was a good idea to type them, and then had a bad time in discrete and fundies one because I was typing my notes. It encourages you to like stop paying attention and text your friends, and it also, when you see them draw something, you're like, oh, I'll just remember what they do. I don't need to like draw them on my computer. But it just take notes by hand if you can. Paper is old-fashioned, but it works.
Okay, I'm gonna try and share my screen again. Okay, did it work?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so this like isn't my Overleaf account. I just use my boyfriend's, but I'm just using it to like show you guys. So he has like all these different folders for like all the different classes he's in, and like I put my resume here. So there's a folder called like Chloe Important Stuff, and then you can see like all the different files that I have. Let's just click on one and open it. What I like about Overleaf is you can like access this on like any computer. It's a lot like Google where you just log in and like all your files are there. So this is like my resume, and you can see the code that like translate into this document here. So for example, if I wanted to change my name, like take my cat's name, you can recompile it. And then you can see that changed to Tig Gold and not like Chloe Gold. And you can like essentially change like all the different text here and like these other like, I want to say like the code formats everything differently, if that makes sense. I'm gonna just change this back to Chloe. Yeah, and then you can just change like the text here so you can like really be really particular about like the formatting and the layout. There are a lot of like cool templates online that like were already pre-made, so that can like help with whatever you want to do. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about Overleaf?
It's also very helpful to, if you, like, let's say something comes up in discrete and you don't know how to do it or you don't know how to write a certain symbol, Google is definitely your friend if you want to like look up small like syntax things.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people make PowerPoints in Overleaf too. I have not done that yet, but a lot of like math people use it.
Was Overleaf hard to learn?
It wasn't hard to learn how to like use Overleaf, but LaTeX can be like kind of tricky sometimes. Because Overleaf to me is similar to just Google Docs. So if you know how to use like Google Docs and Google Drive, it's not a big learning curve, but learning how to code in like LaTeX can be kind of challenging sometimes, like as with like any language.
All right. Does anyone have any more questions? Let me check the chat really quickly. Okay. If not, thank you everybody for coming. Don't forget to fill out the feedback form and check out our socials. We'll be posting a lot on there. Make sure to join our Slack. It's gonna be super fun. And our Instagram is just gonna have, and our Instagram and Facebook are both gonna have our upcoming events. So it's a great way to stay in touch with us there. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.